Hey there. Try number two. I've actually recorded this whole video and then I realized that I didn't press the record button. Amazing me. Another couple of days have passed, and what happened is, first and foremost, around Kharkiv, there is some Russian forces that were deployed to push towards the Kharkiv. Ukrainian army, because of the intensity of fighting in the east, have deployed a lot of heavy artillery and heavy firepower towards the east. And around the Kharkiv area, there is not that much heavy forces left. So now, with some support of the heavy machinery, which Russia has a lot of equipment, we know that all too well. They are now pushing in and taking some of the border towns and moving closer towards Kharkiv. This does not pose any threat to Kharkiv, but essentially the villages that lie between the Ukrainian areas around Kharkiv and towards the border with Russia are now again being exchanged here, back and there, back and forward. That is with Kharkiv. Izium direction. This one is fun. Izium, I already explained this couple of weeks. We know that this has been a major groupings, and they were trying to understand what they want to do with this. Our major question that we were looking at: where would the Russians cross the river? Right. We know that this direction from Liman here, they cannot just advance here. It's a very unfavorable terrain, and it was a not a nice position. So as far as I am aware, they've been trying to kind of cross at some points. Right. There's like some skirmishes that's been reported to me. But overall, they opted out for the ground campaign. I've said that they're going to use ground campaign to advance here, but they also started advancing alongside river into this village or town of Bogorodichne. And there is a bridge here, and that bridge was either quickly repaired or there was basically a temporary crossing made on top of that bridge. It was not properly destroyed. And they're using this bridge essentially to cross the river and unite with the forces. So they're uniting some of these forces with the Izium direction, and now there's going to be basically a massive assault going from this side towards Slavyansk, and we know that they want to half encircle Slavyansk and start laying siege to it. Slavyansk is a major fortress. This is a city that is pretty much bigger than Severodonetsk. It's been a stronghold ever since the first days of the war. If I'm not wrong, Slavyansk was actually the city where the war literally started in 2014. This is where the Russian Yirkin, I believe, started his campaign by taking over Slavyansk and providing. But correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe my memory is betraying me. It was some other city. But Slavyansk is a hard nut to crack for the Russians. It's so that's why I'm thinking that they're going to try to encircle and cut off the road rather than just try to storm it in. It's a heavily fortified position. So even if Ukrainians fall back to Slavyansk is not going to be taken quickly. It's going to turn into another bloodbath for the Russians. Nothing good is going to come of it. So there's a lot of Russian forces here. They're still pushing, and we should expect that Russians will reach Slavyansk. That would not be major news. It's only the matter that if going to reach it, and if they don't reach it, well, then we already know that Ukrainians are doing well. The good news is that because they're pushing this way, we already see that indeed the Russians are having troubles with some of the manpower already. They're having trouble with dedicating some of the resources, so they have to already cut corners here and there, right? We know that there is Ukrainian forces that are advancing from the west towards the Izium direction, and there has been some gains by the Ukrainian forces from the west on this direction, right? So that because it said that Zavody, for example, has been already taken by the Ukrainian army or Zavodi, sorry. I'm not sure how exactly to pronounce this. But this is very close. Basically, that's next village towards the Izium. So there is definitely some weak points in this Russian offensive and what kind of forces they're having. And I'm going to talk about this when we get to the operative level. Around Severodonetsk, nothing much has changed. The only kind of thing to report is that the last bridges were destroyed. So there is somewhere a third bridge. I don't really remember where exactly it was, but my comrades that some of them are fighting actually around that area are saying that despite the bridges being destroyed, there are ways how Ukrainian army is getting supplies into the hands of their outpost here. It's a big beachhead inside of the industrial area of Severodonetsk, and right now it's obviously heavy shelling. It's a meat grinder, but Ukrainians are holding and they're doing quite well. So important thing to know about the Popasna salient. Thank you for teaching me that word, by the way, from the comments on the last video. I really appreciate it. So Zolote is a big Ukrainian stronghold. This is where a lot of supplies and a lot of the Ukrainian firepower, and I would guess also command post somewhere here is. So this is a big command point. It is a big target for the Russians. So we know definitely that they are trying to advance this way, and they're trying to advance through Komyshivacha towards this direction to essentially encircle this. So one of the things to look out for is for Zolota in the news or on the maps, and see if this will get taken or encircled, because this is a juicy target for the Russians. Well, I mean, on the tactical level, it's a very juicy target. But Ukrainians are using this as a major hub for operations around this area. So Russians are having trouble. They still want to cut this supply line that is going towards the Severodonetsk, and they want to advance towards it. And right now, basically, they were not able to advance in the most obvious most obvious place to that road. So now they're basically trying to advance all over it. Basically, every village that is beyond this line in the past couple of days have been attacked or shelled or moved at. And right now they're basically moving in. Like, this is actually not, this is, I would believe that this is beyond the Ukrainian control. This is now being taken by the Russians. So they're trying basically to go whichever directions and whichever direction work, and they're going to try to see if they can advance more. Bakhmut is obviously the target as well. They want to encircle it and hopefully cut the road here, but they can't. And I'm going to talk a little bit more why they can't. So on the south side, almost nothing really happened in the past week. It's an artillery duel Orama, and they're basically destroying each other. And on the south side, this is where some good news finally come in. Ukrainian army has declared that they are doing some counteroffensive push, and as far as I'm aware, it's happening in 4 directions. One is the south, around here. One is on the main road. One is just south of Snihurivka, and one is from the beachhead that they've established by crossing the river. This is the 4 directions that Ukrainians are pushing in, and right now, from the outskirts of Kherson to where basically this line is, it's just 10 kilometers. Sorry, not 10. 10 has been reported, but the sources are actually very shady on that. So official sources say that it's more like 15 kilometers. There is a guy that I'm following. What he does basically, he calls out to people that live in these areas and asks what's the situation in their towns and who is in control and so on. So he also sometimes respects, and that's why he says that 10 kilometers is a little bit not realistic for now. But Ukrainians are trying to push in slowly. But I've reported here that Russians have been withdrawing from some of the most most exposed villages on the outskirts towards the more fortified positions deeper and closer to Kherson. So right now, basically, is where the real fight begins, and we'll see how it goes. So that's on the tactical level. What was happening? Let's talk. Let's talk operational. So operational level, this part they're looking where to go, right? They cannot find the way how the road. Their goal is to you need to cut the road, do whatever, and they don't know what to do because there is now has been a saturation of a lot of Ukrainian artillery in the area, and Ukrainians are reporting that they are raining hell. What was the delay and why the advance was apparently so obvious is that Ukrainians had a big lull inside of the support for shells for the artillery. So for the 155 millimeter artillery, they were just literally running out of ammo. And now finally the new the new resources came in, and now Ukrainians are able to respond again. We know that the number of artillery has also been increasing in the area for the Ukrainians. Right now, I've reported it's been about 15 to 20 to 1. Now it's closer towards 10 to 15 to 1. So the number of artillery for Ukrainians is increasing. And some of the directions, Ukrainians are reporting that they can effectively fight the Russian army with a 1-to-5 ratio just because the Ukrainian artillery and professionalism is just so much better. So that means that if Ukrainians are getting supplied with artillery that is at least being able to match Russians 1-to-5 or is significantly long range, such as M270 or HIMARS systems, which are coming, and I'm going to touch on it a little bit later, then that means that Ukrainians will start completely destroying any kind of advanced potential for the Russians. And I've already said that, and this is exactly the truth. So let's talk the global. So what is happening? Well, one of the good things is that the European leaders just visited Kyiv, and this is important. Why? Firstly, they came in, and I was expecting them to push Ukraine towards letting go some of the territory in sake of peace. But I think, at least I hope, that they proved me wrong. And all of them came out with quite strong support for Ukraine. And this is good. And while obviously I cannot believe anything that Scholz said, because Scholz is the master of telling stories and then not committing to those stories whatsoever. More importantly is that the Macron has decided to support Ukraine. This is big because Ukrainians really wanted to see the future in Europe, and the candidacy status as a part of the European Union for Ukraine is a big motivational and, like an outlook for the future. Because a lot of Ukrainians have been really doubtful, and I felt it a lot when I talked with them about the fact that they don't see, and they're not sure that the big boys, essentially, of the European club will let them in. It's by Macron and Scholz proposing all these weird discussions about, like, maybe we should propose to Ukraine something else rather than candidacy status as a EU member. No. And I'm really glad that they came in and they did support the Ukrainians, especially as Macron, because from him, the thing that we were not sure of is about his rhetoric. And he was quite clear in his statements, which is appreciated. From Germany, apparently there has been finally agreement on some kind of dates for deliveries. So hopefully we'll actually see some German heavy weapons coming into Ukraine. And this obviously brings a lot of really good stuff for Ukraine. There has been a little bit of a disappointment in Ukrainian recently because of the outcomes of this latest summit, like so-called Ramstein 3. And because they think that it's not going to supply enough equipment, not fast enough. But I'm not sure that Ukrainians have read the agreement, because most of it is literally just closed from the open. Sorry, most of it is like just enclosed and secret part of it, like how many missiles for HIMARS will be sent to Ukraine during the summer. And it's a big package. It's 1 billion. So we'll see how it's going to go. And it's not the last package, I'm pretty sure, because other countries said that they will send something. There's going to be a meeting of NATO countries at the end of the month, which is also going to discuss the sending of the weapons to Ukraine. So while not as fast as Ukrainians and not as quantities that Ukrainians want, but they're still being supported by the West. And I still believe that this will come to a turning point just because Ukraine has so much will and so much dedication to grind this down. And I think I'm going to make my next big video about how to even deal with this war, how to understand the fact that it's in this grinding stage where anything can happen. And maybe if it's not going to be a dedicated video for it, maybe I'm just going to have a recording session about generally things that I've been thinking about in the past weeks. But all in all, we just need to stop worrying about Ukraine. She's going to be fine. We just need to continue our support. Send thanks to our politicians that support Ukraine. Send big no-nos to politicians that say that we should make friends with a bloody dictator that Putin is, that kills kids, that sends his army to rape women and then gets them all awarded with medals. That is no bueno in my book, and I hope it is the same in your book. Support Ukraine. We will win.